The dollar billet was one of those gray mornings when the sky seemed heavier than usual, pressing down on everyone walking the busy sidewalks of a small town in Ohio. Melissa clutched her thin jacket closer as she hurried her 2 kids toward school. Her mind was racing not with the day's plans, but with the numbers in her checkbook. Bills, rent, groceries, everything felt like it was stacked against her. Melissa was a single mother, working long shifts at a diner. She did her best, but no matter how hard she tried, it seemed like life always found a way to remind her she was barely staying afloat. That morning, she had sent her kids off to school with toast because there wasn't enough milk left for cereal. As she walked back alone, her eyes caught something fluttering near a storm drain. She bent down and saw it a single crumpled $1 bill, clinging stubbornly to the damp concrete. She picked it up and stared at it in her hand. Just $1 to most people, it would mean almost nothing. But to her, that $1 represented choice. She could buy a can of beans to stretch dinner. She could buy a small carton of milk for her kids. She could even use its award bus fare when her legs were too tired to walk. Melissa slipped the $1 into her pocket and continued toward the diner. But as she passed the corner store, she noticed a boy standing near the vending machine. His clothes were shabby, his shoes worn. He had coins in his hand, but they kept slipping through the slot and clattering to the ground. His eyes filled with frustration. "Doesn't work, does it?" Melissa asked gently. The boy shook his head. I just wanted a snack. Haven't eaten since yesterday." His voice cracked with embarrassment. Melissa's heart clenched. She could feel the weight of that lonely dollar in her pocket. She thought of her children, hungry that morning. She thought of how every dollar mattered. But then she thought of this boy, standing alone, with no one to help him. Without overthinking, Melissa pulled out the dollar bill and smoothed it flat. "Here," she said softly. "Try with this." The boy's eyes widened. "Really? Really?" He slipped the bill into the machine, pressed the button, and watched as a pack of crackers dropped down. He grabbed it eagerly, tore it open, and ate so fast that Melissa had to remind him to chew. When he finished, he looked up at her with crumbs on his lips. "Thank you, ma'am. Nobody ever." He stopped, his voice breaking. "Nobody ever does that." Melissa smiled, though her own stomach was empty. "Take care of yourself, kid." She walked away, wondering if she'd made a foolish choice. But deep down, she felt lighter. That night at the diner, the place was unusually quiet. Melissa wiped down tables, thinking about the long walk home and the empty fridge waiting for her. Just as she was about to clock out, an older gentleman walked in. He wore a neat suit, though it was worn at the edges, and carried himself with quiet dignity. He sat at the counter and ordered only a cup of coffee. Melissa poured it, noticing how tired his eyes looked. Something about him reminded her of the boy earlier that day, the same quiet kind of hunger. She poured an extra cup, added a slice of pie from the back, and set it in front of him. "No charge," she said, when he started to protest. He looked at her for a long moment, then smiled faintly. "You're very kind." When he left, he tucked something under the saucer. Melissa picked it up, expecting a small tip, but it wasn't small. It was a $50 bill. She gasped, looking around to see if he'd made a mistake. But he was already gone into the night. Melissa pressed the bill to her chest. It was more than enough to cover groceries, milk for her kids, and even a small treat to make them smile. She thought of the boy at the vending machine. She thought of how her $1 sacrifice had somehow come back multiplied. The next morning, Melissa walked her kids to school again, this time carrying bags with sandwiches and snacks for them to share. She felt proud as she saw their faces light up, and just before she turned back home, she spotted the same boy sitting on the curb. He looked up at her, surprised. Melissa reached into her bag and pulled out an extra sandwich. "For you," she said simply. The boy took it with both hands, almost reverently. "Why are you so nice to me?" he asked. Melissa knelt so she could look him in the eye. "Because once, people were kind to me when I needed it most." and I promised myself I'd pass it on. The boy nodded slowly, as if storing her words deep inside. As Melissa walked away, she realized that kindness wasn't about how much you had to give. It was about the heart behind it. A crumpled dollar bill offered with love could ripple farther than she'd ever imagined. Moral of the story: a small act of kindness, no matter how insignificant it may seem, has the power to multiply and return when least expected. Giving from the heart can change lives, including your own.